Hey guys, Crypto Sunday, and as often comes with a red stock Saturday, it's been a red week for crypto as well. I'm down about 5.5%, about £20,000. That all seems to be up and down all over the place at the moment. Bitcoin's still at 62,000, just a little below. Has been a bit more than that, but didn't get below 60,000. Seemed to be a sort of reasonably strong support on the sort of geopolitical Israel-Iran sort of Middle East war. Still, Russia tensions as well. It's just a little bit tense out there. So yeah, we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. Got the election coming up in a month, so plenty going on. But let's have a look at the CoinShares report. That was fairly positive. We've seen some sort of fair inflows over the last week, so I knew this was going to be reasonably good. We had 1.2 billion in inflows. That is sort of largely into Bitcoin, 1.07 billion, 86 million into Ethereum as well, which is pretty good, and 65 million into multi-asset, which we do have a bit of news on today. But I do sort of certainly think this is worth keeping an eye on this number sort of going forward, because I do think people will want a sort of maybe not an S&P 500 of crypto, but maybe sort of, I don't know, top 25 crypto in an ETF rather than sort of picking individuals. We also had quite an increase in short Bitcoin. People sort of thinking it's going to drop, as over 10% of the total assets increased in short Bitcoin. So people are quite confident on that. We had a decrease, nearly 5 million in Solana, 1.2 in Binance, 2 million inflow into Litecoin, a little bit into XRP, and some small inflows into Cardano and Chainlink. Outflows on the others. By country, we got an outflow out of Brazil. That's devastating, but yeah, overall, I think they're looking pretty good. 5.5 in for the month, 214 million in year to date. So yeah, they're not too unhappy. Small inflow into Australia, small outflow sort of elsewhere. A little bit out of 20 million out of Germany, 2.5 out of Sweden, but 84 million into Switzerland. So quite interesting. Wonder whether that's sort of money shuffling around from various countries. Are people sort of moving it from Germany to Switzerland, or is this people selling in Germany and a lot of people buying in Switzerland? But, yeah, interesting. On the more recent inflows for the past week, well, it's been outflows really. We've had sort of a small inflow on the Monday, and then sort of 3 days of reasonable outflows, 242 million on October the 1st. I think that was the sort of war news for the most part. And then we've had sort of 64 million, 54 million, and then a 25 million inflow. So yeah, CoinShares report will be negative, a small negative for the next week, but we'll have to see where things go. Something I should say that I'll probably cover at some point in the future. This is sort of a slightly old report, but I have been looking into maybe swapping a couple of my smaller tokens that I've sort of got a little bit less conviction in, shall we say, and maybe swapping to Helium, the mobile network and sort of Internet of Things network, as they call it. Looks like quite a decent report on Masari. It's free, and yeah, it is from July the 8th, so some of the data's a little old, but you can sort of look at some slightly more up-to-date data, so that's pretty good. And sort of I am looking for slightly longer term data, I suppose, to see if there's a trend. But yeah, it's built on Solana. It's getting a lot of users from the looks of it, and it looks strong. So yeah, kind of considering maybe some of the smaller tokens, but we'll see, and maybe I'll come back to this sort of in the future. So some fairly big news, not just for Ripple, but for altcoins in general. I think we were all hoping for the XRP lawsuit to just carry on through. They reached a settlement. You know, this was the settlement that said basically them selling it to institutions is a securities transaction, but people transacting XRP on exchanges and secondary markets and all that sort of thing is not a securities transaction. So, you know, the token itself isn't an unregistered security. It was just the way they were selling it to institutions, you know, intending to make a profit, I guess. So the SEC weren't happy with that, and we sort of were kind of hoping they wouldn't appeal against this, but they have. So that sort of sent a bit of a shockwave back through altcoins, and yeah, people are sort of back to expecting that the SEC will be saying that all, you know, or the majority of altcoins are unregistered securities. So I'd imagine this doesn't help Kamala Harris's chances of sort of securing many crypto voters, because they'll just see this as more of the same, more sort of anti-crypto legislation and issues. Even if she sort of, you know, will distance herself from this and just say that it's the SEC, they're independent, but yeah, they could sort of quite easily put a stop to this, or sort of put a little bit of legislation and sort of clarity around it, really. But that doesn't seem to be the case, so we continue to get regulation by enforcement, as it's called. And we have Hashdex playing around with their S1 for the NASDAQ Crypto US Index ETF. So the NASDAQ have a Crypto US Index. This is basically the sort of somewhat approved tokens, if you like. And at the moment, it's just Bitcoin and Ethereum. But sort of, I guess, as we get more sort of clarity and regulation, if we do get that, then they could be added to this list, and it can be easily included in that ETF. It wouldn't need, you know, individual, if they want to sort of say add Solana or XRP or something like that, then you wouldn't need an individual ETF. It would just get added to the NASDAQ crypto index and they would buy it, and you sort of have exposure in that way. And presumably it would mean they would sell some of their Bitcoin and Ethereum to sort of fund that. But sort of getting maybe, you know, Solana and XRP and some of the others sort of through the back door almost, in that it's not a separate ETF, it's an existing ETF that just has Bitcoin and Ethereum in it. But yeah, they sort of mention, the article mentions that they see this, a lot of the issuers see this as sort of the next logical step, or at least having just a Bitcoin and Ethereum one, because people want to, you know, have diversification basically. As I say, they might want a sort of top 10, top 25, whatever it ends up being, in the longer term. And sort of, I thought if we get, you know, a bit of positive news on the XRP thing, then that might sort of indicate lots of other tokens are not securities, and they might sort of finally, you know, add a load to an index. But with that XRP news, that hasn't helped. So yeah, the SEC said they've asked for more time on assessing the Hashdex ETF. So we'll have to see what happens, but need more clarity, really. Probably needs, after the election, Kamala Harris to start fleshing out what she means by pro-blockchain and digital assets. So speaking of Kamala, there's been some polling by HarrisX and published by Consensus. So there is sort of potentially a bit of bias there, depends sort of who they have been asking, but suggesting that crypto is becoming a bigger issue. 49% of those polled, 49% of nationwide people that were polled considered pro-crypto policies as being extremely or somewhat important to them. So yeah, I would say that there probably is a bias there, because I don't think 49% of the US own crypto or would really care about crypto. it's probably lower than that. But yeah, of the people that they've polled at least, then yeah, that is quite a lot of people. So they will see it as you don't have to be, like Trump sort of issuing NFT projects and sort of being really, really pro crypto, but just not being anti would be a good start. So I expect that is what the pro digital assets and pro blockchain comments have been all about. There was, a reason that she included them and was somewhat vague. So yeah, that's not really a surprise. Not again, it's not really a surprise to say it increases to 85%. Say it's important if they are owners of crypto, and 81% if they are likely to invest in crypto for the first time in the next 12 months. That's not really sort of a surprise to say that would affect their vote. They're saying crypto has in the past sort of been a touch it and get burnt topic. So that's unsurprising why she sort of kept largely quiet on it. And especially when you have people like Elizabeth Warren sort of in the anti-crypto army, which apparently sort of Harris and Warren sort of haven't always seen eye to eye, but they have been sort of endorsing each other somewhat, and it looks like she is going to sort of still be largely featured, although she is up against John Deaton, a sort of pro-crypto guy who's sort of part of the XRP lawsuit, and yeah, seems like sort of could give her a bit of a run for her money, but she is sort of the incumbent, and yeah, I would have thought she is probably still going to win. So we'll have to see what happens with Elizabeth Warren, whether she sort of pipes down. Yeah, as they're saying, she seems unwilling, unlikely to actually say the word crypto or Bitcoin or anything like that. She will sort of give vague pro words like, being pro digital assets and pro blockchain. But yeah, I think maybe a little bit more clarity. We might get a little bit more in the next sort of few weeks. I thought Trump might sort of call her out on it and bring it up in the debate, but yeah, we didn't get that. There's a huge amount of talk about this as well. A new HBO show claiming that they know who Satoshi is. They haven't sort of announced what it is. There's a trailer that doesn't sort of give any indication as to who they think it might be. But this comes out on, I think, the 8th of October. So there's actually a poly market bet on this at the moment, and the sort of current favourite is Len Sassaman, a programmer who was sort of quite active back in the early days of crypto, and it looks like unfortunately took his own life. It looks like about 2 months after Satoshi, because Satoshi was originally posting on the sort of Bitcoin forums and things, and he sort of basically said that he wouldn't be posting very much at all anymore, and he would sort of largely go into well, he was anonymous, but he would largely sort of go into the wilderness basically. And then sort of 2 months after, it was found that this Len Sassaman had took his own life. So whether they have sort of more evidence, if that is who they are saying, then don't know, because that isn't sort of too much of a link, but that is who they've got at the moment. There's been sort of endless speculation before about Hal Finney, who is also unfortunately dead, Adam Back, who has sort of obviously denied it, and I can't imagine they have sort of any more evidence than what is already out there, Nick Szabo and Paul LaRue. So yeah, we'll have to sort of see what they have. There's not the first time there's been speculation, but yeah, from the sounds of it, it looks like it might just be emails and various sort of bits of speculation, trying to put two and two together, and they're saying it could be this Leonard Harris Sassaman. think people are sort of somewhat maybe morbidly hoping that it is either him or Hal Finney, if there is sort of strong evidence, because in theory, you know, if they've died with the private keys and they are no longer available, then it would sort of cement the idea that the Satoshi wallet can never be touched because it has 1 million Bitcoin. It would sort of basically confirm why, even though that wallet has risen to sort of whatever it is, $62 billion of Bitcoin now, why it's never been touched. You know, obviously there would be an enormous amount of temptation to sort of spend a little bit of it, but you know, maybe they see the sort of longer term view, you know, the bigger picture of if you start spending some of that million Bitcoin, then obviously everyone assumes that all 1 million of it is essentially up for sale, and that would crash the price, and you know, it'd very quickly not be worth 62 billion. So yeah, maybe they sort of mined other Bitcoin back in the day and were sort of selling some, and you know, left that wallet as it is. You know, it was quite easy back in the early days just to get a laptop and mine sort of 50 Bitcoin at a time. So yeah, it wouldn't be surprising if you know, whichever one it was, they'd sort of been quite comfortably living on another Bitcoin stash as it went up. But yeah, interesting. People are sort of, you know, betting on whether it's a dead person as a bullish take. Had CME futures as well. The sort of small, they're calling it the Bitcoin Friday futures. It's a sort of much smaller denominated Bitcoin. It's 1/50th of a Bitcoin, so that is rather small. So just over $1,000. So $1,200 worth of Bitcoin. So not the sort of full 60 odd thousand. Maybe that was a bit too big for some people. I kind of thought futures were more for bigger people that would be trading one Bitcoin. But yeah, this has sort of seen some popularity. 31,000 contracts, I guess, on day one, which, yeah, I suppose is 31 million, well, sort of $35 million. Not exactly a huge amount, but yeah, it's, I suppose, good for hedging and that sort of thing. A lot of people will see it as paper Bitcoin because it's, you know, just cash settled futures contracts and sort of potential for manipulation. But I kind of think it's, you know, institutionalizing Bitcoin and sort of gives people more safety and things. People like to hedge. They like to use options, which is hopefully coming on the ETFs soon, and it just lets people with larger amounts buy that with sort of the protection that they want. So yeah, inevitable, I would call it, and almost required. Oh, saying that, to be fair, the proper CME contract isn't 1 Bitcoin, it's 5 Bitcoin. So yeah, at the moment it is sort of $300,000. Maybe it is a little bit big if people want to sort of trade smaller amounts. So yeah, going from 5 Bitcoin to a 50th of a Bitcoin, it's 250 times larger now. So yeah, we'll have to see if this sort of interest picks up, or whether people continue just using perpetual futures and the sort of non-traditional finance stuff. Looks like I got a bit excited about the Bitcoin difficulty coming down. It was just the first few days, sort of people maybe switching off miners for a little bit, but it looks like they've been switched back on. Block time is under 10 minutes again, and the next difficulty estimate in 3 days is sort of projected for a 2.7% increase to 90.83. Admittedly, it was at 92.67 a couple of weeks ago. You know, for a couple of weeks since the 11th of September. So it's sort of in the middle of there. Not horrendous, but would have been nice to see it come down again. Just give the miners a little bit of a boost. But yeah, it was, you know, middle of August. It was 90, sort of where it's projected to to increase to, and in May it was sort of 88, so not the worst thing in the world, but yeah, the miners sort of really need a boost. Still paying attention to Brave as well, the basic attention token. So one of my smaller holdings, but it was sort of partly one that I was considering maybe putting a little bit more into, or swapping again some of my sort of I would say underperforming, but underperforming fundamentally coins. Things like Quant and Gala sort of don't really see a lot of news, don't really see a lot of adoption from them, and yeah, sort of something like Brave and Basic Attention Token, you've got figures there. They're up to this is quite a bit old, but not sure why the data only goes up to May. It is active data, they haven't stopped. This just always seems to be about 3, 4, 5 months behind. But yeah, they're up to 28 million daily active users. Some people, not everyone uses their browser every day, I guess. But so monthly active users, they sort of had a little bit of a slow month, but then in May, up to nearly 79 million users. So that is a lot of people. Some people obviously will just use the browser itself and not necessarily even turn on the ads and use basic attention token, or be, spending it. Some people will just get given it and sell it all. So they're not sort of so much in the ecosystem. But yeah, I think it's sort of users are users. 78 million users is rather a lot. Kind of think they should make these charts a little bit more adjustable. Daily active user, monthly growth. Sort of, they really ought to take this, early month from 2018 off, because it sort of distorts the graph. But you can see that growth has been slowing. It's still growing, but at a slower pace. They're at sort of 2.6%, 2%, hovering around 0 to 5% now, and it's sort of leveled off around that, has sort of almost never declined. Had, a couple of very, very slightly negative months. And monthly active user growth has sort of seen a few dips, a few sort of low single figure dips, and one fairly large one in 2022, but has sort of pretty much come back positive for most months, and sort of 3, 5, between 5 and 10% growth sometimes, and sort of normally 0 to 5%. So yeah, I think that's decent numbers, and sort of potential for it to do well in the crypto market, as people sort of get a bit more focused on things in the crypto ecosystem. You'd sort of potentially get a spike up, and we may have already had a bit more of a spike up, obviously, with this only going back to May. So we'll have to see, but yeah, sort of kind of considering swapping some of my smaller tokens. So yeah, your things like VeChain, there was sort of news about Chinese adoption, but sort of haven't really seen all that much since. Internet Computer, sort of just forever not doing all that well. Quant Network, I don't see anything of. I was kind of holding it just as a sort of permanent central bank digital currency hedge, but again, it's just talks, with someone like the Bank of England, and then you get 3 months of nothing at all, basically. Similarly with Gala, the idea is that they could be the sort of Steam of crypto, but it doesn't seem to be attracting a huge amount of very good games. And yeah, I've sort of got Polygon there still, but Polygon do seem to get a fair amount of users. Obviously, they have Polymarket built on there, but we'll have to see. Maybe not making any more sort of rash decisions, but yeah. So looking at the coins for the week, everything is down, of course. Bitcoin's down 3.6%, Solana 6.4%, Ethereum down 6.7%, Chainlink down 8.2%, XRP off the back of the SEC news down 13%, Power Ledger 4.8, Internet Computer 13.3, Audius 12.5, Quant down 6.2%. So again, it sort of doesn't seem to go down quite as much as everything else in a red week, which sort of again made me consider selling. Gala though is actually the underperformer for the week, 15.6%. Polygon 7.6, Basic Attention Token 8.5, and VeChain 8.5. And Helium, as I'm sort of potentially looking at buying, down 5.3%. So even if I sort of sell something that's a bit down recently, Helium is also down, sort of with everything else. And it's down 16% in the last month, where some tokens are up. So we'll see. So let me know your thoughts in the comments if you're buying anything, what you think of sort of any of these tokens, what you think of Helium, and like and subscribe. See you soon.